we've talked about these indicators and the ones we're going to use, I'm going to show you how to actually get them up on your screen, and we're going to take a look at some stocks and find when these all align. So first of all, as just a side note, my screen is white, but when you get into Webull, the default is black. If you go down here in the settings, you can click on it and you can change it from white to black. So I prefer white, it's a little bit cleaner, but you can make it whatever color you want. So we're here, we're in the markets tab. You can see we talked about these before, the most active, our top gainers, our top losers. And this is where you can start to find those stocks to invest in a swing. So I'm going to pull up some stocks and we're going to talk about these indicators. I'm going to show you how to get them on your screen and how they line up. So we're going to start with USB. It came up on my list as ones to watch. So I'm going to bring it up here. So we've got this on the screen. This is our USB. It's at 37.48 as of this morning. And we're going to bring up our indicators. So right here at the top, you can see this tab that says indicators. And as we talked about before, I like the MACD, the RSI, and the stochastic indicator. Now, it's not showing on here on the frequently used, but you can go over to all indicators and you can find a ton of these. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to find myself the stochastic indicator right there. So I'm going to click it, and now we can see all these indicators over here. Now I'm going to do a quick plug. This is on my regular PC screen, and you can see every time you add an indicator, it kind of scrunches this up just a little bit. And this is why I actually work with a 32-inch screen. But if you don't have a big screen, no worries. I traded like this for a very long time. So I've got it on the daily chart, and that's important when we're looking for indicators, and we're going to scroll in here, okay? Now what I want to see on these indicators is, I'm going to, down here, we're going to start with this MACD. And we talked about this before. So we basically want this yellow to be above the blue. Okay, so we want this yellow to be above the blue, and that's basically it on that. The RSI, I want to be above 50, and the stochastic indicator, I want also to be above 50 on this yellow one. Okay, so when the stars all align on these, you're gonna see a spike. So I'm gonna go back in time a little bit, and I'm gonna show you where I invested in this guy so we can take a look at it. So right here on 5/22 is when I saw these all align. So you can see right here, the yellow line's going above the blue line. The RSI, it hit 47 at the beginning of the day. It was 50 by the time I invested in it. And right here, the stochastic was 64. So all three of those indicators lined up, and I thought, okay, this is most likely to spike. So I invested in it, and then you can see over the next couple of days, it spiked and it hit its hardest spike. It got to the top and it finished on 6.8. Now I actually didn't hold it until 6.8, and I'll show you why. I actually got out on 6.7, somewhere around the 42 mark. So you're never going to get it all the way to the top, and you're never going to buy it all the way to the bottom. I mean, you might. It's really lucky when you do, but that's not our goal, is to sell at the very tip top. Our goal is to make what we want out of it, and instead of getting in our head about what, did I buy this at the top? Is this all the way at the bottom? Did I make as much money? Am I going to kick myself later? Instead of doing that, just say, I got my % gain out of it. That was a fantastic investment for me. It went up a little bit more, but that's okay. I feel good about my decision. So that's what happened there. So I'm going to pull up another one. We're going to look at Store. Another one of my investments. So we are going to bring Store up here. You can see these indicators. This top one is the MACD. We want the yellow line to be above the blue line, the slow to be above the fast. We want the RSI to be 50, and we want the stochastic, the yellow one, to be 50 as well. So on this one, on 5/26, we're going to take a look at this. So on 5/26, And you can always scroll in to make these a little bit more obvious. Okay, so we're looking at 5-6. You can see this yellow line started to go above the blue line. You can see the RSI right here was 61, and you can see the stochastic was 59. So this was a day when they all aligned, and so I invested in it. And you can see over the next couple days, it spiked a little bit that next day, and then it went down, and I had to patiently wait for a little while, again until 6-8, it hit its very tip top. Now, once again on this one, this is another example of one that I actually sold on the 7th and didn't hit that very top. So I sold it at 25, which is totally fine. But you can see that right after these lined up that this had a smooth climb. And that is exactly what we're looking for. Now let's go on to another one. We're going to look at GMBL. I don't really know what GMBL is. It looks like it's esports. I don't know. It's some sort of entertainment group. And I don't know what it is, but that's okay. Really what I'm looking for is the indicators, because the indicators don't lie. They're easy to use when you're starting to trade. They're crystal clear. And it helps you trade what you see instead of what you think. Because sometimes when you feel the market's going to do something when you're first starting, you're actually quite wrong. I've been wrong before where you just think, oh, it's going to do this because I don't know why. You have some sort of a reason, but the market isn't always rational. So we're going to take a look at GMBL. And I got in on it at 5-1. So we're going to go back there a little bit. Again, you can see these are a little bit scrunched. I'm going to scroll in a little bit so we can see a little bit clearer. So here's 5-1. And I waited until 5-1 to invest in this because you can see this, that the MACD, the yellow went above the blue way back here, but the RSI wasn't quite high enough and neither was the stochastic indicator. So I chose not to get into it at that time because all of my stars did not align. And that's really important for me when I'm investing. You got to have those hard, fast rules. But over here on 5-1, it finally did. So we hit the stochastic above 50, the RSI finally hit above 50, and the yellow is still above the blue. So this is the day that I got in, and then you can see it ended up starting its spike not until 6-3. So we're going to scroll over. So this was one of those that I went, oh boy, is this ever going to spike? Should I sell this? Should I get out of this? But remember that swing trades take 5 to 25 days, and that's not even exact. Sometimes it'll be a month. So over here on 5-28 is when it finally started its spike, and it finished its spike on 5-29. So some are going to spike over several days, and some are going to spike over 2, some are going to spike over 1. So you just have to watch. And I'm going to teach you how to get out of these and figure out when this spike is probably done. So I sold on 529, somewhere around the 850 mark. So I didn't hit the 975, but I felt really good about locking in those gains on that one. So that one took a long time to spike, but the indicators did line up and eventually it did go. Next one we're going to look at is IQ. Okay, so on 6-3 right here, once again, we see the MACD, the yellow is above the blue, the RSI hit 63, and the stochastic was at 55. So this is the day that I chose to get into this, and you can see it kind of held steady, and it finally spiked on 6-15 a little bit. It started to go up a little bit, and then it finished its spike on 6-16. So you can see once those all line up, most of the time, not every time, you're going to see a spike within the next 5 to 25 days. And once again, these aren't the only indicators you can use. We talked about those top ones. These are the ones that I choose to use. And we're also going to talk about volume because I do use volume, and I'm going to show you how that comes into play when we finally make a decision to buy. So for instance, on this one, we're looking up SRNE. Before I would even consider it, I would, when I'm choosing a stock to trade, as we talked about before, this is where you find the volume once again over here. So before I'm even looking for these other indicators to line up, I'm already decided that that volume is is comfortable for me and there's enough people buying that I'm not going to get stuck holding the bag on this guy. So we're going to look at SRNE, and I'm going to go to 511.20. So we can see once again this MACD just barely started busting out. It was kind of like neck and neck there for a while. You can see the yellow finally went above the blue. And I'd been watching this one because the RSI and the stochastic were already where I kind of wanted to see it. And these lines were kind of following each other for a couple of days. So I kept an eye on this one and had it on my watch list. And you can see on 511 that yellow line finally broke out of the blue line. So that's exactly what I wanted to see. But I'd been watching it for, oh boy, a couple days. Anyway, so we finally see it all line up here. And then the spike starts here on the 15th and it ends on the 18th. So pretty close together. And so that one was a 2-day spike, pretty quick there. Last one we're going to look at, it's PRTY, party something. Okay, here we are on party. Sounds like a fun stock, right? It is some sort of party city. Okay. So here, once again, we've talked about this before, but you can see that yellow going above the blue. You can see the RSI is above 50, and the yellow stochastic indicator is above 50 as well. This is the day that I got into there. And then you can see it started its spike on the 29th. You can see it kind of went up, and then it pulled back just a little bit. And that is not uncommon either, where you see kind of a spike and then it pulls back. And I was tempted to get out of this on this day because it spiked and it pulled back, and I went, oh shoot, I missed this spike. This one's just done. And then I decided to hold it, which doesn't always happen because I could have sold out on this day because it had a hard pullback. I thought, oh, maybe it spiked all in one day. But I ended up holding it until 6-8. And you can see it had that biggest spike, and then it started to pull back, and I figured it probably wouldn't come out of this once again. So there are those examples of what we are looking for, what we want to happen when we want these to line up. And I'm going to show you once again. I'm just going to turn these indicators off for a second. And you can see without them how much more dramatic this spike looks. So sometimes you think, oh, that doesn't look like very much money, but then you see this, how dramatic that spike is. So that's where, again, the bigger screen comes in handy, but it's not necessary. Or we're looking for these indicators to line up just right. Now, are you always going to catch them? A lot of times you're going to find these after they've already spiked, and you're going to say, ah, dang, yes, that would have spiked. I should have kept an eye on that. But it's just, maybe it'll spike in the future. You can keep an eye on that one later. And you will find these when they all line up. You just have to be patient, and you have to really just keep an eye on the market. So I will get up, I will take a look at my watch lists, and I will keep an eye on what's going on. And then I'll watch for these to line up. If it looks like 2 of these are in place and the third one might go, I'll just come over here and click add it to my watch list. We learned about this in the basic course, but just add it to your watch list and just keep an eye on it. You can always put some alerts on here if it gets above a certain thing. So if 2 of these are lined up, like I did in the previous example, you can keep an eye on that and say, you know what, if that MACD rises, or if that stochastic goes just a little bit more, this is going to be one that I'm really interested in. So you can keep an eye on it. Remember to stick to your rules, because I have before been tempted to say, hey, right here, this looks like it's pretty close to lining up. It's not quite where I want it to be. It's just a little bit below, but you know what? It'll probably go up. And that's when you really run into mistakes, is when you're not sticking to your hard, fast rules. So when you make your own rules in trading, I have only regretted when I haven't stuck to my rules, because you might make money, but you're doing it the wrong way. Most of the time you're going to say, man, I have those rules for a reason and I should have stuck with them. So if you want these 3 to line up and you want them to, this RSI right here, you can see it's 47. That's not in my rules. Even though it's so close, I would not invest in it on this day because it wasn't quite high enough. So you want to stick with your rules in trading. It makes such a big difference to your success. And when you're successful, you know why you're successful, which is also really important. So in the next video, we're going to talk about, now that we've decided, hey, all the stars are aligned here, we're going to go over when to get into a stock and how to decide what that point is. So that is the indicator section. Now you should be really familiar, and I want you, for your homework, to go look through some stocks and try to find the point before the spike where the indicators all lined up.